everything that is suggested to you by Google, do not do. You will lose a house deposit on just that.
We're trying to talk about how you can minimize waste and budget, and this is a really effective way of doing that. Welcome to the Digital Horizons podcast. Today, I am joined with my guest, Brent Neale. Brent is a Google Ads specialist. He's been working in the industry for a few years now and manages Google Ads client accounts for budgets from as low as $1,000 a month up to tens of thousands per month. So, Brent, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Today we're going to be talking about ways that people can not waste their money on Google.
Yeah.
We see that there is so many ways that Google puts in your face when you're creating an account that is just really a way to make you spend more, which is not going to get a result.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts, I guess? So if you can run through what are the key ways that you're seeing, and for anybody who's got a Google Ad account or they're paying someone to do Google Ads, what would you say is the first thing people should be looking at within their Google Ads account to just minimize that wastage? Yeah,
it's always so funny, especially when you create some sort of new campaign now, you're always prompted with all these notifications like do this, do that, do that. To a pretty good extent, I pretty much dismiss everything now. It used to be, back in the day, you used to sort of consider it like, oh, should I do this? Should I not do this? Whereas now it's almost everything that is suggested to you by Google, do not do to some pretty good extent.
That's it. And I found that even some of these things are hidden. Like you've got to click and there's like advanced settings, and these are advanced, but it's just they're hiding something from you that's just going to make you spend money in a place you don't know you're spending.
Yeah, 100%. Like the devil's in the details when it comes to Google Ads campaigns. The general structure of and running a Google Ad campaign isn't necessarily complex. Like that's the beauty of it all. Is it's not, you have to be a genius to figure out how to run a search campaign, but how to run a search campaign well and to get what a good market value would be for a lead on Google. That's a completely different story, or at least the good quality leads as well. The first area that I always pay attention is in the settings for every campaign. Yeah. Especially search campaigns. The first area that I'll always jump into every single time I've set up a new campaign, it's always going to be the networks. So you've got the search networks and the display networks.
Yep.
Essentially what they are is it's like let's call it a third-party network through Google. And what they do is they'll push your, say, search campaign as a display campaign on a website. I actually sent a screenshot the other day of one of our one of previous clients, and an ad popped up through remarketing, and it was just this text ad through some other random blog. I think it was like I can't remember, like a BuzzFeed blog or something like that. And it just showed up as a text ad and it looks terrible. So always turning those off. Like that's probably the first one.
Yeah, because that's something that when you're setting up a search campaign, you think that when you're creating your ads, you're creating your keywords and all this kind of stuff, you're only gonna be paying to have your ads to show in that top 4 pack of the search results.
Yeah.
You don't expect that your ads are going to be shown wherever on the internet that you're unaware of, and you're paying for that too.
Yeah.
And that's one that we see all the time when we're looking and ordering accounts.
Yeah, no, big time. That's by far probably the biggest, I would say, money waster. It's not a huge spender. Like that's the thing, is if you keep a search network on, most likely by mistake, you can break it down to see how much has been spent in other places. And it's so rare that I actually see conversions come through from the search network, but it's not to say that it can't work. It's just something that I would immediately turn off and then do that sort of testing down the line. If
keyword
you're trying
expansion.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
You maxed out your reach or whatever. There's no further possible conversions you can be receiving within the normal search network, then branch out onto these other placements.
And for those that don't know as well, search networks is basically a search bar that you're going to have within another website. And you can search on that, and then it'll kind of half search the internet for you, or search like that website for you. Mm-hmm. And then that's where your ad will pop up. So it's not even like it's using a search engine, it's using this sort of search function on a different website. So it's not even a slightly relevant search campaign at all.
So what would you say the next area people should be looking is to minimize their waste?
Yeah. Probably next, it's almost immediately after is locations. If this is something that I know that even as a previous sort of Google partner, they even still recommend turning this off, which is the presence or interest, turn that to presence. That's probably the biggest one, that you have no idea how many accounts you log into that still have that on. Sometimes it's even left on, by accident, something that's so easy to miss. Like again, as you're saying, hidden
that's
sections,
the advanced field one. So that's what that one is that you say I'm running a campaign, I want to be targeting Brisbane.
Yeah.
And so I've got the setting, your ideal setting is people who are in your location. That's what you want it to be. The option that is by default that Google puts you on is people who are interested in or in your location. So that could be anyone, anywhere in the world who at some point in time has shown an interest in Brisbane. Maybe they're thinking of moving here, or maybe they're just coming to
Holiday
visit.
something, yeah.
And then they're searching for something, and Google's then got the liberty to show ads anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
So you don't know that your ads are shown, especially if you're a local service provider. There's no reason for your ads to be running outside of your local area.
Yeah.
You don't know where your ads have been spent. Well, you can find this out, but you don't have no control over it.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, again, everything has its own purpose and place. Like there is no real accidental setting on Google Ads, but 99% of the time, I can't imagine you want your ads to show over in Bangladesh when you're providing like glass repair services in Brisbane.
Yeah. So one reason I was trying to think of what the point of this would be, and one thing I thought it could be was tourism.
Yeah.
So someone's planning to come to Brisbane.
Yeah.
And so it might be like, hey, what to do in Brisbane and kind of shit. That you want to be shown, because anyone could anywhere in the world. If they're interested in what to do in Brisbane, they may be planning a trip. And so that would be a good reason for it, but very limited use case.
Exactly. And even then, you'd still rather run a campaign in top tourist locations.
Correct.
Like say someone's coming to Australia from US, like that's a common thing. For your whale watching tours or something like that. The very last case scenario is to create a very broad campaign targeting anyone worldwide with that on, so that maybe you get a couple of people from like the Philippines coming over, or maybe you get some people from New Zealand or something like that, but they're not your main target demographic. The only time I can ever imagine you'd use that is, exactly that, tourism.
Yep.
And it's the very last campaign because you have no idea what else to do.
Yep.
But look, at that point, you probably just go into putting money on a billboard, right?
That's it. So what's the next one you recommend?
It's definitely auto-applied recommendations.
Yes.
This is something that in a lot of accounts is set to default on. Sometimes it's off. Just double-check every account. It depends on when the account was actually created. But always go into your recommendation section, and then the top right, you see like a little clock with a little like a time sort of signal on it or icon on it. Click on that and just make sure everything there is completely unticked. A lot of the recommendations here, or auto-applied recommendations, can be involving, changing your bidding strategy or even increasing your budget.
Yeah.
So a lot of people waste so much money here. If you've got a budget that's set at $20 a day, they can easily spend $30 or $40 a day because it's automatically applied. And unfortunately, Google always recommends that you should spend more money, even if you can't.
100%, and that's a big one. And this is something that's been around for a little while, but you just don't know. And it was automatically turning on for accounts that had been previously running without this on. And so you jump in there and shit would look different to what you're used to seeing in there. And then you realize, Google has auto-applied this. So I think that this is definitely something that if anyone's running Google, I should be immediately checking that they don't have this enabled, because you're giving Google the ability to make any changes they want within your campaign. That's not going to be in your best interest. I mean, you might see some better results, possibly, but I think the more likely what we've seen is that it's not going to have a positive impact. Yeah,
exactly right. I mean, especially when you sit down and you actually read through all of those options, because there was an email chain that was going around a little while ago that I think you shared with us, which was, what should you keep on, what should you consider, and what are some things you definitely shouldn't have on. To a pretty good extent, if you're pretty active within an account, you shouldn't have any of these on.
No.
But there are some that are just so scary, which is the budget. You can automatically create new assets. So like new headlines and descriptions and stuff. New keywords. Like it can just go crazy. Most case scenarios, it doesn't go crazy, but there's so much money that is just wasted in these.
Well, you want to have control,
areas.
and it's giving away the control. And I think whilst there are areas within Google Ads that are great for them to just take over when you're using automated bidding strategies and different things, when it's got the right data in place and it's got the right constraints around it. But being just completely open to do whatever is just definitely not going to be positive. This actually makes me think of another thing that I've seen people waste money on. It's kind of tied into this. Is having the Google app on your phone, and we've had clients do this, and they don't know any better. And now we tell everybody, because we didn't realize this to be a thing, that they've got the app on their phone, and then they get a pop-up which says, hey, you should do this. It's going to make you more money, or you'll generate X more conversions from your account. And so they're just hitting accept, thinking, okay, this is something Google's recommending within my account. I need to accept these. And so they're accepting all these different recommendations, which is basically like the auto-apply almost. And then we see the results are just tanked. And we're like, whoa, what happened? And you check the change history, and you realize the client's email address has made all these changes, and we're like, whoa, what happened? And
the most of the time they don't even realize either.
No, not at all.
If you try and put it on them, like, you've done this, you've done that, they're like, what?
And because it's just so fluid, it happens on the thing, and then all of a sudden you've just increased your budget by 200% and not even known. Like it's it's just that one which just sort of stood out as a case where you just got to be so careful.
Yeah, 100%. That's probably one of the biggest ones. I guess in conjunction with that is also broad match keywords as well.
Yes.
And going back to, you always prompted, you should do this, you should do that with a new campaign build. This is probably the biggest one. And Google's put such a massive push on this, as pretty much anything you'll find on the internet now is don't go broad match, don't go broad match.
Yeah.
I definitely still stand with that, but this is by far the biggest one where you start targeting completely irrelevant terms, or probably the biggest one now is intent. We can't rely on someone searching, glass repair and converting immediately now. Like, someone is a bit more specific about what they search on the internet now. But in the same sense, if someone's searching for, DIY glass repair, which you will show for, that is a completely wrong person to show for.
Completely different intent. Like, and I mean, the what Google tells you it's going to do is, when you're running a broad match, it's supposed to be looking at the landing page, looking at your website, trying to match the intent with the search. Yeah. But it's not happening. And we see this time and time again. Like, there's completely irrelevant terms, so much competitive terms coming through from these things that it's not going to be a good use of your budget. You want to have your exact match, your phrase match, get control, get some negative keywords, which we're going to jump onto. Yeah. But make sure you've got all that built out in your campaign, get some conversion history happening. So that way you've got the right parameters in place to test some broad match. You don't go broad match all in, and never broad match single word. Like,
absolutely not.
You don't want to go a single word. Like, I would not go, say you're an electrician. You don't just go electrician. Broad match, because that could be anything. Yeah. So, I mean, that's where you just got to be very careful.
You will lose a house deposit on just that.
100%.
Easily.
That you're going to spend some money.
Yeah.
All right, what's next?
Negative keyword list. Yes. That's probably the biggest one, right? Yep. Every new campaign we ever build, the first thing that we're looking at, especially every single day, literally daily, sometimes for up to 2 weeks, is just a negative keyword list, but the search terms.
Search query report.
Yeah. Look at every single search that's coming through. Yep. Why is your ad being triggered? Not just looking at, free glass repair or something like that. I'm just going to use that example consistently. Yep. But free glass repair obviously has nothing to do with what you do. So you're going to use the negative free for that. But also looking into a bit more of the intent, which is something we can get to a little bit later on. But yeah, of course, any words that stand out that you don't want to show for competitor terms, irrelevant locations. Yep. There's a lot of different categories that you can create negatives for.
Yeah, and I think the way that we do our negative keyword process, I think it works very well. And when we're auditing, looking at other accounts, I feel that they're probably not done as effectively as this way. And this has come a long way from us working out over the years. Yeah. But by using negative keywords list is really important, because when you've got a bunch of different campaigns within an ad account, you'll identify keywords you just don't want to show regardless of what campaign that's in. So especially like your locations, you're never going to service a client in X area. Put that as put it on your neg location list, so that way you can be sure that you're not going to show any ads regardless of what the search is. Looking at competitor terms, negging out all your competitors, and then having your unsupported. Yeah. So that way you're making sure anything that you just don't do. So say as a digital marketing agency, we don't build websites. Someone searches for website design, we put that on an unsupported list because we never want to come up for that term. Yeah. And making sure when you actually put in them, think about all the different ways that people are going to search that. So you're going to type websites design, website developer, web designer, any kind of different thing, because Google will still show you your ads. Like, it's like the opposite of what it does for search terms. Yeah. It will try and show you shit for as much as possible based on that keyword. But when it comes to a negative, they won't take that negative as anything else. Yeah. It has to match to the exact letter. Yeah. If there's not an S, you will show for the plural of that keyword. Yeah. So it's kind of the opposite way of doing it. But yeah, which
is funny as well in its own sense. But yeah, no, that's exactly right. Like every single time it's even just adding like a plural to like an S or something like that. I'm trying to think of an example, but just add in as much as an S. Yep. So you've got two different terms like that completely changes everything. The amount of times I go back through a lot of negative keyword lists, I'm like, I swear I negged that. Yep. No, I've negged the non-plural version. So now the plural version's coming through.
That's it. And common misspellings, like you might find, like, I mean, we've had clients who have brand names that are a little bit, or competitors' brand names that are a little bit uncommon. So people are spelling it incorrectly. So we're continually having to look at, all right, well, look at all these different ways people are spelling it. Let's just get ahead of it, try and block it out. Because by doing this work at the beginning, or when you're looking at a campaign, you're just future proofing it from the showing up for stuff that you don't want to be showing, which is going to get clicks, which is going to waste your budget. Again, we're trying to talk about how you can minimize wasting budget, and this is a really effective way of doing that.
Which is insane as well, because the amount of accounts that we look into, and there's just no negative keyword activity at all.
Yeah.
Like, it's been, maybe they'll do initially for the first month or something like that, and then after that, they don't do anything. That is by far the biggest area where you're going to save money. But more importantly, the biggest area that you're most likely wasting money. And understand Google as well as, if you put yourself into your own shoes and you search something on Google, if you're, again, going to that glass repair, person, if you're searching DIY glass repair, you could immediately expecting something like, WikiHow to come up with a walkthrough on, how to, do your own, do DIY glass repair or something. They're going to just click on that immediately thinking that's what it is. But most likely it's going to be your ad where you're spending money, you're having someone bounce pretty much immediately because they don't want to pay someone to do it. It really is just this trickle effect into now thousands of dollars being spent over the course of a few months, dollar here, dollar there, where you could have generated 20, 30 leads or something.
Yeah, so I guess when you're implementing dynamic keyword insertion into these campaigns, it can really have a negative impact, because what you're saying in terms of your glass, your DIY glass, if your ad shows for this, your headline is going to take that search term that they've actually put into it. So then you're going to match their intent. So they're going to be like, fuck yeah, I want DIY glass help. And then click on your ad thinking that that's exactly what they're about to land on. But really, it's your product page or your service page, which does not match the intent at all. And so that's a really risky way of running things. I think the only way you could ever use that dynamic keyword insertion is if you're using exact match, because you know exactly what your headline is going to look like, or very close variants to that.
Yeah, exactly.
Broad match would just be a nightmare on that kind of stuff.
100%. And that goes straight back to the auto-applied recommendations where it'll automatically create those assets.
Turn that off.
Yeah.
Don't run that.
Never turn it on.
No way.
It's always off.
Yeah, so that's another one. Make sure that's turned off. What was it? Auto-apply.
Auto-applied recommendations. Okay, yeah, it's a bit of a mouthful.
That's terrible new introduction that they brought in with that one.
Yeah.
No use case for that at all.
Absolutely not. I think probably the other one as well that I don't understand why we even see it in the first place is conversion tracking.
Yeah.
When conversion tracking is either not set up or not set up correctly, and we can go through quickly what correctly would look like, but not set up at all. Like, there is no excuse to run any campaigns without understanding if it's working or not.
100%.
It makes absolutely no sense to me. It's equivalent to putting a billboard out in the desert and hoping to get a little bit busier. Who really knows? Makes no sense at all.
Okay, so you want to make sure your conversion tracking is set up, but how do you make sure it's correct?
Yeah. So when it's correct, one of the biggest things I always is calls, and you're tracking every call. That's always going to inflate results. If someone, let's just put yourself through a bit of a scenario. If you land on the website and you give this person a call, all right, cool. Hey, I want glass splashbacks or something like that. I'm looking at these designs. This is my kitchen. Yada yada. And then that person hangs up, and they're like, oh shit, like actually I've got to give them my location or something like that. I didn't give them a bit of important information. That person calls back again. It's going to count as a second conversion.
Correct.
And you can see that through the repeat rate in the conversion actions dashboard. And most of the time, it's usually up between like the 1.2 to 1.3. So there is a good 20 to 30% extra conversions if that is set to every. So every single time, pretty much every conversion action should be set to 1. Only situation will be purchases. You want to track every purchase that comes through.
Definitely.
So every single conversion action always set to 1. And then the second is primary and secondary conversions.
Yes, seen this not done well in quite a lot of accounts.
Yeah, 100%. And it first of all, obviously makes your account look better. If you've got an add to cart and you click on that and they haven't actually bought anything, you haven't made more money as a business. It's a good action to track, but as a primary conversion, it's going to say you're converting at X amount, but realistically, you might get for every 10 add to carts, you might get 3 purchases or something like that. The actual answer is 3 conversions. So having your micro conversions, as you call it, as a secondary action, really, really important. Like, that's probably the biggest one that we still see to this day.
Agree.
It's a big money wasted when not being able to see data clearly. Most likely turning off keywords or products or campaigns that look like they're not working, or they're putting more budget into a campaign that looks like it's working, but it's not generating the actual bottom line result. That's probably the biggest one that you don't realize you're losing a lot of money on.
Any more that people need to be aware of for how to not waste money on Google Ads?
I think probably the biggest one is new account structures. Like, this is always if you're taking over an account and it's already doing fairly well, it's not too difficult to be able to keep it going well and to be able to take it to that next level, because it's already got learnings and data. When you're taking something at a completely new stage and level,
Yep.
you have to build a lot of learnings back into that account.
Yep.
Google thinks that even if you create a new account for a website that has previously run Google Ads, it's a new account. So how to structure your campaigns through bidding strategies, the right bidding strategies, to make sure that you're not just throwing money away for no good reason, because Google's going to get hundreds of people to your website as quick as possible, and then hopefully get some conversion actions out of that.
Yep.
You want to be in as much control as possible to be able to know how much you're bidding for each keyword, how much, what are your keywords that you're targeting, what's your search terms that you're allowing to come through, all that sort of stuff. You can only do that through manual CPC.
Yeah, and Google will recommend that you use max conversions, I'm pretty sure, when you're setting up
from get-go
campaign.
Yeah.
And the problem with that is that Google doesn't know who's going to convert because there's no conversion data in there.
Yeah.
If you haven't got, and this is even for older accounts that haven't got conversion data set up or conversion tracking set up correctly. So you're basically telling Google, all right, cool, get me max conversions, but it's a brand new account. So how does Google know who to send to your traffic? So it's just going to send anybody to your traffic until it has enough data, which is a really inefficient way of doing this. You'd rather have control, make sure that you're funneling the traffic into the way that you need it, is going to work, and be able to monitor your bids and your traffic. And then once you have got that conversion data, and I'm pretty sure Google even recommends itself to have a minimum of 25 conversion actions per week before it should work properly, even though they're pushing it at the start of the campaign.
Yeah.
So once you get to that point, then flick it over to max conversions, run it as a trial, see if it outperforms your manual bidding, and then flick it over to continue running it that way. Because that's where you can get some really good efficiencies out of your campaign, but not out of the gate. Like, it's not going to run that way from the start. Yeah,
exactly right. Like, I mean, I feel like every agency has at least tested this once or twice, and just everything that Google recommends, you always test it to see, all right, is this actually worthwhile keeping or not? And you always do it as such a mitigated, testing strategy. But the first thing you see, especially when you turn into maximize conversions and no conversion data, you just get a shit ton of traffic. You get a shit ton of clicks.
High cost per clicks too, occasionally too.
Yeah.
Like I've seen, because you've got no control, and so it can, because Google thinks, all right, cool, this potential person might convert, so it's going to bid high to get that click. But it doesn't know if that's the case because there's no conversion guard data. So you may be paying way above what you would be paying on a manual CPC bidding strategy because there's just not enough data to know what to pay for a click.
Yeah, exactly right. Bidding strategies is probably one of the bigger ones right at the top of the list. I think another thing that goes kind of back to the negative keyword list as well is actually having proper control. Again, going to the search terms, but if you say you got like a high intent campaign, then you got like a broad, more generic sort of campaign. Let's take glass repairs again. If you've got the high intent, which might be window repair in Brisbane, which is pretty specific to what someone's looking for, and then you've just got one that's like glass repair, and that's your generic search term.
Yep.
If you're getting search terms for glass repair coming into your high intent campaign, it's basically the same campaign being morphed into each other. You have no real
exact neg that out of that campaign.
Exactly right. So just being a bit smart about where do you allow search terms to come through. Understand that where you're at is shown, and just understanding that if you get a conversion for, say glass repair, but it should have been attributed to the general campaign or generic campaign, that can cause a lot of misunderstanding in the account. Again, budget could go heavily towards high intent, and who knows, that may or may not convert as well as generic. Yep. So that's probably the biggest one is just controlling where your search terms are coming through.
Well, Brent, thank you for your time today. I think we know Google ads work. They work so well when they're set up correctly, but we do find that so many businesses come that we are talking to that have not had success with it. And these have been some of the key reasons as to why. And I feel that Google makes it very easy to spend money with them, but it's not always going to be in your best interest. And it's not going to get the results. So I hope that everyone who's been listening to this has got a lot of actionable insights that they can take away and either implement themselves or talk to the people that are running their campaigns and make sure this is happening. Just from implementing one or two of these, you're going to see a lift in your performance. Yeah,
100%. Like, there's such easy, quick wins to do in your account, and you'll save so much money. And think about, again, that missed opportunity, right? $100 here, $100 there. Like, it doesn't sound like a huge amount. Your business is most likely not going to go under.
Yep.
But that could have generated, another $500 to $1,000 in some sort of return. So think about it that way as well.
Yep. You've been listening to Digital Horizons podcast. We're back every week with a new guest. Thank you for your time, and we'll speak to you soon. Thanks.